Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the conversation piece with your host, Akila. Ready? Let's go. Squid Game overtook Bridgerton as Netflix's most watched series of all time. For now. The worldwide phenomenon that is Squid Game is a blistering critique of capitalism, classism, and mankind itself. Carl Jung stated that we are our own worst enemies. Man is a wolf to man. Hello, hello, hello. I'm here with a special guest. We won't say her name. She's young revolutionary. But we're here to discuss the cultural phenomenon that is Squid Game on Netflix. Mm-hmm. So hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine.
Happy to be here.
I bet you are.
I'm excited for this.
Good, I'm glad.
This is right up my alley.
Okay, so what was your overall impression of the movie Squid Game?
I think it was very interesting for sure. I think it was very captivating. It's not boring at all. I think there's a lot of plot twists. Mm-hmm. And it's like an exciting movie. I think that's why it's very popular as well.
Why?
It's just exciting. Like that thriller, that adrenaline. I think people like that.
It's a dark movie. It's not candy-coated at all.
It's very dark, like what's actually going on, but they make it seem a bit lighter, you know? Like, for example, like, they make you like the characters. They give you that, you know, that staircase, like that maze room is like pink and purple. It's like it doesn't make you feel dark though.
I mean, it's very colorful, but we also have to remember that like different colors stimulate different emotions within you too. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like for instance, if everyone was painted to say black, mm-hmm. it would give it a completely different feel than the pink and why pink? Even though it's the color of a squid.
Wait, wasn't there like green too? Like
it was
green, like a purple. Yeah, I don't know, something like that. Like pastel colors though. So they made it seem like it was like a fun, colorful game, but it's really dark though. Well,
that's the thing. Like these people, even though spoiler alert, some of these people they gave away their rights.
Yeah. Which
is very symbolic of how in modern society how we'll sign like these terms and conditions, but we don't. Does anyone ever read those terms and conditions? No, it's too long. Mm-hmm. It's too much legal jargon in there. They do that on purpose, I think. Very few people read it, condition themselves, or familiarize themselves with those conditions. Because it's interesting, the one guy, the Sang-woo, I think his name is, he was always on top of the rules. Everyone else is just like, almost like sheep, hurling a sheep. And he was like, hold up.
That maze room with the pretty colors, didn't they lead them all up through that to each game? So it's like, I think especially like that first game, everyone was like, ooh, like I wonder what we're about to do. So it kind of, it's almost like it makes them excited, or they don't see what darkness is about to come to them, if that makes sense. Like that maze gives it a different impression.
Perception is reality though. And your reality kind of like it colors your perception. It works on two fronts.
That's an interesting way of looking at it.
Uh-huh. I'm interested. Okay, so why do you think it's caught on the way that it has? It's just the number one Netflix show of all time. It took over Bridgerton.
Yeah, I was really surprised because I know a lot of people don't like gory stuff or like crazy scenes where everyone's getting shot. And then it has a lot of younger audience members liking it too, which I'm surprised. But I think it's just that like edge of your seat, like who's gonna die, and it's really like life or death. I think that adrenaline has a lot of people liking it, but I'm very surprised that at the end of the day something with a gory undertone is that popular.
Well, I've heard the backlash from some parents who feel that Netflix, which is just pretty much really available for anybody, you know, even within the if you go into the kid profile, you can still type in Squid Game and you have access to it.
Really?
And so people are saying, I think so. And so some parents are like, oh, it's too much for my kid. But your kids are exposed to all kind of stuff nowadays. Mm-hmm. You don't even know some parents don't even know what their kids are exposed to. For instance, this TikTok challenge with these kids going around vandalizing the bathrooms and assaulting teachers now. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
everything. I don't even know why, but this generation, they just catch on to trends regardless if they're smart or not. It's just there's like whatever gains the most popularity, and I think that makes a lot of teenagers lose like morals. They're like, okay, well my video can blow up if I steal this chair or something from my classroom. It's like they don't really think about the actual what's going on. They just think about the fame, the popularity behind it. I think that's everyone's focus now with like teenagers and social media. It's like just getting more and more attention no matter what you have to do. And I think that's changing their mindset without them really knowing. They're just willing to do whatever it takes. Like they're not really being them. It's just
they're not thinking through though. And also I blame TikTok because TikTok took, okay, for instance, the crate challenge, right? They took that down because they realized how stupid it was.
Yeah.
Right?
Dangerous.
But they didn't. I don't even think they took down the vandalism challenge or the kid. I know the teacher one because now schools are like, listen, if you have the audacity to hit a teacher, we're now pressing charges on you. We're pressing charges on your kids. That's assault. It's like,
yeah,
no one thought that through.
It's like real life consequences now. No one, yeah, they're not thinking about that type of.
So what do you think? What do you feel the movie is conveying, especially during these times?
I think it shows a lot between like, especially like wealth gap. You have the elites or the VIPs that are kind of hosting the game. They watch the game. It's like fun for them. It's like a regular hobby for them. It seems like. And then you have people who are very desperate for money or in tough situations. And I think that shows a big gap of privilege, a big gap of lifestyles, and the different worries and stress that you see people in like lower class, like the extents that they're willing to go, the sacrifices they're willing to make, and then people are just like playing on them. And I think that shows a lot like capitalism and stuff. The rich just get richer, the poor get poorer.
Do you think a version of these games will happen in real life? Because I heard, I saw something on the internet about they are holding a version of the games, but they're not going to kill people. I'm like, that's what y'all say.
Yeah, I think it's already happening, for sure. But I think a version of this game is already out there, and it's been going on for a long time. And there's a lot of like little hidden cues that I saw. So,
like what?
Remember in the show when it zoomed out where they were playing and it zoomed out over this island and then that thing closed up? The first thing I thought of was like a Jeffrey Epstein type of hidden like island. Like,
yeah.
Why all of a sudden they're on an island and just, I don't know, it just showed too much. That's just the first thing that popped up in my head. I was like, so rich people, they probably, who knows what they do on their little secret islands. They get busted and stuff, but like, that's just the first thing I thought of.
I saw some documentary and it was like these hypothetical scenarios, but one of the scenarios was like that's what the rich ultimately want to do. They want to have their own like private islands or whatever. But it's like, yeah, y'all can have that, but who's going to clean up after you? You're not going to clean up after yourself. There's always going to be poor next to the rich. There's always going to be some juxtaposition between. There's going to be classism, whatever it is. But yeah, they were like, it's like, oh, okay. It was out in the middle of like the oceans or something like that. I'm thinking, yeah, go right ahead and see if the hurricane is just. So let's break down. I want to break down the games. Okay. Red light, green light.
Basically, following rules, following what you're told, and that like every day we follow rules, we follow laws. It's just it shows you like you need to act the way you are told to act, and you literally see it in the game. You don't follow the rules, and then you're gone. So I don't know. I feel like that one had a more daily life type of meaning behind it.
What I also found interesting was that when they they used the word eliminate, right? But they didn't. Even with that word eliminate, right? They're not thinking they're gonna kill us. So when they saw those two guys got shot, they're like, whoa! They like shocked the system, right? So what happens in everyday life? You do something, you're shocked, almost like shocked into submission, like, oh, okay, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Right? And so then when she said green light, everyone didn't. You notice it? No one moved, right? And then of course red light, and then it said green light again. The old man, he moved, right? He moved twice, and so everyone's still kind of like, because it's like you're not going to kill an old man, right? Yeah. We value our citizens, we value our old people. They're not going to kill us. They're not going to kill an old man. And so then it kind of like eased up a bit, right? And I thought it was very interesting how they put a time limit on it too. Because think about it, if it wasn't for that time limit, you could be way in the back,
just chilling.
Exactly.
But I also, that's a good part. After we discussed this part, the stuff with the old man, the stuff we missed in the show, hints but they're very hidden in plain sight. But to show how the old man from the start, he wasn't really in the game.
He was in the game.
No, but he was in the game, but he wasn't really in the game.
What do you mean?
Oh, we'll get to that. Okay. Oh, you want to get to it now?
Go ahead.
Okay. In Red Light, Green Light, you know when that big doll or whatever, it had like that green ray vision, so if something moved, it said like detected or whatever. The old man didn't have that globe around him. He was the only one who didn't have that. So I don't know if they gave him a different vest or whatever to not get detected. But if you replay that part,
they put on vests.
That jacket or whatever. I think he had like a different jacket to wear. Let's say he didn't move. The green one? He had on the green one, but it might not have been the same or as some.
I just thought it was a motion detector. It just detected like motion.
Yes, but his was never. His motion, his orb around him was never there, but everyone else was. So even if he moved, it would not have shot him. They did that on purpose. Like I don't know if they gave him a secretly different jacket to where it like helps him not get I don't know what they did, but when you replay that scene, you see that it never goes over him. What was the second game?
Honeycomb.
Oh yeah, Honeycomb. That one, I mean, not that it's easy, but they gave him more like leeway where he can get out on his own. They just weren't gonna kill him, so I think he could easily get out of Honeycomb. What was the third game? Tug of War. Yeah, remember he had all these tips and tricks, and every single game played, he was like, oh, this was my favorite game as a kid. And then he had like some type of knowledge behind it. So looking back, all the games they made were just because he liked those. So he knew how to win.
Yeah, I think if there was one game that he was for definitely sure going to get killed if it came to that, was Tug of War.
Oh, but here's why. You know, after they won and they're all laying down like panting and stuff like that, and their wrists are still locked to the thing, his never had a lock on it. When you replay the scene, his it doesn't have a lock on the wrist. Okay, so even if he were to fall, he wouldn't like. A lot of people like replayed it and then found these little Easter eggs. Yeah, so he wouldn't really have fell and died. What was the next game?
Marbles.
Oh yeah,
that episode that gutted me. That was
I was so sad for the wrong person. Ended up being the head person of the whole game.
Well, but we didn't know that at the time.
I know, but I was sad.
The way that I think Sang-woo did Ali. Mm-hmm.
And when he just turned, he knew he was about to just like when Ali like realized what happened. Like I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad.
That was a game of trust.
Oh yeah,
that was that just.
Or that man who had to like his wife ended up getting killed. That was probably hard too. Oh, and the scene where the girl, like, she just, like, lightly threw her marble. I was like, oh, my gosh. Like, how they ended up just...
But they kind of introduced her, like, midway, so you didn't get an attachment to her like you did with...
Seokbyuk.
That
was, like, the main girl. In Marbles, you remember the whole time the old man was walking around, he was just like, this was, like, my old town and the games and stuff. And then the guy thought he was having, like, a dementia moment, but he really wasn't. Or remember, he was just like, that's how you do your friend or whatever. So it's like he was there. He knew the whole time. And then the next game... Oh, wait, no. Oh, yeah. They had to take him out the Marbles game. He had to sacrifice himself because the next game was that glass thing.
Yeah.
And let's just say everyone ran and got the jackets 2 to whatever the last number, and the old man got the first jacket. He would have to sacrifice himself and there's a chance that he could have lost on those glasses. Okay. So they had to make sure he had to sacrifice himself in that Marbles game. But there is no way that they were going to let him die, though. But yeah, you should look back or look at those clips where they scan. You don't see the old man getting scanned and the stuff like that. Okay. And the lock on the wrist thing. And then you remember when there was like that riot at night or whatever, and the old man started screaming and crying. Then they listened to him to stop or turn on the lights or come in and finally cool off the fight and stuff like that. Yeah, I just missed all this stuff. I didn't even realize all this stuff. But there's like really no way of realizing it until you know what you're looking for.
What is that?
My dryer.
But no, for instance, there's this conspiracy theory about the world being overpopulated, right? So I saw this one, I think it's a documentary called Shadow Government, how they're the elites in each country, they want to have like a one world government, but they realize that the world is overpopulated and that it's not going to sustain itself. But their mission is to pretty much get rid of 85% of the world's population.
Oh, I didn't expect it to be that much.
Right. I'm like, 85%?
the heck? But they definitely have the ability to do so. I feel like I think they're already testing the waters with Corona and stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, they're just seeing what works the most.
Fear is what works the most.
Fear, and then what bacteria strain or whatever can affect the most. I think they just run tests on us all the time. I wouldn't be surprised if they spray stuff in the air, like with airplanes flying over. You never know. You never know. I think stuff is planted. Like, it's real, but it's planned. The organ harvesting.
Yes.
Now, that one was very straightforward, very right there. And I'm very surprised that they put that idea right in our faces like that. Because that's something that's really not talked about.
Well, think about it. Like you said, people go missing all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly. I always get those flyers, especially on Wednesday, about, have you seen this person and do like the kid's been kidnapped when they're like 4 or 5 years old. They had to do like an age and they've been missing since like 1987. It's like, really?
Yeah. Exactly.
God only knows where they are, if they're still here.
Have you heard of like adrenochrome, something like that? It's like some type of blood thing, if I'm not mistaken. And they say celebrities, especially like beauty standards and stuff like that, but I think there's a lot of elites do this as well. They say they get like the blood of like a baby, or like they sacrifice their baby, whatever, and then they inject that, and they're just gonna make them look like young, as if they've had like Botox. It keeps them looking young, whatever. But I wouldn't even be surprised if that something along those lines was really practiced with famous people and elite people. Something that
as we saw, to them, this is all sport and amusement. This is all entertainment for them. Yeah, we're the test subjects. The guy's like, well, I see you guys as horses. Let's talk about the front man for a minute. He's interesting. What do you think his relationship was to the old man?
That I don't know, because there's a lot of loyalty there. There's a lot of
Cause come to find out, he was a winner back in 2015,
something like that. And
what I found interesting was, so we go at this journey with the main character, and so he wins, but it's like look at what it cost him, And so he wins all this money, and he's still, because of the trauma, people don't address trauma and how that can pretty much paralyze you from even progressing forward, because he didn't spend any money pretty much. He goes to the bank, and the bankers are like, we noticed that you put your money into like a low interest account, whatever. And right there, so okay, see, they want to make money off of his money, right? The front man, he wins this game, and we pretty much probably know what he had to go through to win, to be the ultimate. But then he turns around, and then he is now perpetuating the same behaviors that he had to go through. I know what people who have trauma, I notice they do one of three things. They either address it, try to get help for it, and they're able to move forward. Some people just disintegrate and get further into the trauma. And then some people who will turn around and then they'll perpetrate the same oppressive behaviors that they were once fighting against. And I think that's what he's doing.
Yeah, like I feel like he was like brainwashed into thinking this is what he wants to do. He wants to continue this pattern as well. Like he's like right there where you would think he would want to escape from. No, he's right there.
But it's crazy because you're assuming at one point he was scraping and scrubbing to get by, and then he finds himself in a position to where he now has money, and then instead of maybe reaching back and helping somebody, he turns around and then oppresses people.
I think that that's in a lot of relationships with people that are elite or join the elite or make sacrifices to get richer or more famous. I think they do things that they wouldn't normally do, but once they get that connection, once they get into that spot that they like, they just continue it, and then they get the next person to come in. I think that's how these societies grow. It's like Freemasons, isn't it? Like it's like a brotherhood or whatever that promises connection and have your back and for stuff like that. But let's just pretend like something like a Freemason thing, or on a higher level, someone had to sacrifice something or somebody to get into this. It's like a cycle that just keeps repeating, and then they keep growing and growing, and then all this power gets
until someone dismantles it. And I think that's where we find ourselves potentially with season 2, where Ji-hoon, I think he's the one that he wants to break it.
I think so.
But I think, okay, if there is a season 2, if there's a season 2, do you think he's going to make it? I don't think he's going to make it.
You don't think he will?
Ji-hoon is trying to go up against powerful structures, symbolic of that are tied to wealth, status. For instance, I heard a rapper say, Immortal Technique. He's a very independent thing. He's very, very educated. In society, how they'll criminalize poor people for committing crimes, just to get by, just to survive. But he was like, what do the rich and powerful have to do to maintain their power and their control? I was like, he has a point. He's like, sometimes they do worse things than poor people. And this series just encapsulated that perfectly. What they do to maintain power and control.
And it shows what people really do for money, though.
Yeah.
Like, that's just...
Do you think money is a root of all evil?
But I think money is a root of all evil. I think, I don't know how to word it, but I just think, like, people are just, it's just there.
Yeah. Because you think about, you have tools. Money is a tool. It's what you do with that tool, right? We have people who, they've had all kind of tools throughout society. They've used it for good, or they've used it to our destruction.
I think it's greed. Greed could be a root of evil. Because, like, let's say somebody shoots somebody, and then they're like, it wasn't the gun that shot the person, it was the person who shot the other person. So I think it all comes just back to
people.
Yeah, greed, morals, all that stuff.
Let's talk about the symbolism and other conspiracy theories that are out there.
Oh, yes.
Got it.
All right, this is...
Up your alley.
I've been ready for this. All right, so the VIPs that came strolling in all high and mighty with their masks and, you know, all that stuff, I think they represent the elites, quote unquote, the elites in this world.
Yes.
So, like, you know, the rich, even some of the famous and the secret societies, you know, that are hidden in plain sight. So I think that's who they represent. And then you can see that as they're watching the game, they're laughing, they're putting bets on people's lives. You know, it's like the lower class population. It shows that they just look at them like toys pretty much. Now, I think there's symbolism everywhere in this show. I think it showed a lot when it was the last three players eating that final dinner at a triangle table with those checkered floors. And the checkered floors are a symbol or like a pattern you really see with like Freemason type of symbols. That's what I learned when I did a little bit of research. And I saw this one earlier this morning, and it was saying that they play kids games because in real life, a lot of these like games and rituals are played by kids. They think that they use a lot of kids as their like test dummies in these games. Now, I think that they have a lot of adults and stuff. Whatever goes on who knows what island and stuff like that, I think they have all types of ages, but they think that a lot of kids that go missing, you don't know like where they go. There's no, you know, trace of them. And that goes a lot into the like Wayfair conspiracy theory. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like, it's like in plain sight, I feel like kids are just going missing and then they're being used for something, their organs are getting harvested for something, and they just never get turned up. And there's like so many kids that go missing each year, and it's not talked about. So I think that's a little creepy.
Well, it's interesting that when people go missing, for instance, I think it depends on who goes missing. How many other kids from disadvantaged neighborhoods or black and brown people go missing all the time?
You just see the difference in care in this specific case versus a lot of other cases that people that don't look like Abby.
No. Getting back to the VIP episode, what I also found interesting was the gender discrimination that I highlighted, right? So you have two guys and one girl that ultimately end up being the finalists, right? But they're all given tuxedos. Why wasn't she given a dress? They assumed a woman wouldn't get that far.
Oh, wow. I didn't even pay attention to that.
Yeah, she was in a tuxedo. They're all given given a dress, to eat that steak dinner, and they're all given tuxedos. She's not given a dress. They assumed a woman wouldn't get that far.
I can't believe I didn't notice that.
It's okay.
And that's very that makes so much sense though. They probably did not. I'm a little mind blown right now because it's I missed that part.
Well, I mean, because there's always this, women make up half of the world's population. Probably more than half the world's population, but they're still seen as in some cultures as the lesser sex. There's still a weaker sex. Look at all these abortion laws and these quote unquote woman reproduction issues that are going on in all these other states, or whatever. It's there's always this concern or this effort to control the woman in her body.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about this is a little off topic, but how do you feel about the whole, I feel like there's a big change in the attitude towards like roles of women in society or roles of women in relationships and stuff. What is like your opinion on women becoming more like dominant, or like they don't need like a man or a partner and stuff like that? Like, what is your, or do you agree more with traditional roles, like, you know, the woman has this role and the man is the man of the house? Like, where do you?
I kind of see it both ways. But I'm more like, that's the woman's personal choice. There's some women who can still be, you know, a CEO on her job, but when she comes home, she plays into, you know, not plays into, but she, you know, she comfortably transitions into being the housewife or whatever. It all depends on every woman is different. You know, there's some women who they just want to be by themselves, I guess, and some women don't, because I think culturally, I think some women, they fall back into that submissive role or whatever. They think, oh, that's my place. It's like every culture is different, every country is different, and you have some people, this is reinforced through their religion also, where the man takes over like for instance in Islam, the man is the maintainer and protector of the household. That's his responsibility. It's a huge responsibility to take care of your household. So therefore, he's not superior, but he does have a say. You know, he has a say. The woman in Islam, she can work if she wants to. And before pre-Islamic Arabia, that was not the issue. Women weren't even seen as citizens. They weren't even seen as humans. This is pre-Islamic Arabia. And a lot of religions are like this. Like, for instance, back in the day, a woman, pretty much, they were considered second-class citizens, and then who you were married to, who you were tied to, that sort of gave you a status or whatever. Like, it involves a lot of stuff, marriage and all this kind of stuff. So with inheritance, for instance, you know, if the man passed away, sometimes that wouldn't go to the family, that wouldn't go to the woman. The man, some proximity to like the man. What Islam did is, like, with inheritance, women now had a say in inheritance, right? You still give more to the man because, like I said, it's not because he's a man, it's because his responsibility is to maintain and protect the household. Some people, now with that, some people, they look for loopholes, right? We're dealing with people. At the end of the day, you're dealing with people. People are flawed, they're not perfect, and you're going to have some people who are going to try to adhere and be responsible and take care of people. You have some people who kind of like play both sides, and some people who are going to be totally disrespectful and totally take advantage at the end of the day. That's just, you're dealing with people. So, but as a woman, I think that's her choice.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
that's her choice.
Do you know what, like, OnlyFans is? Do you think that is a good example of, like, let's say, a financially self-sufficient woman doing that job? Do you think that is a what's the word, like a symbol of woman empowerment? Like, because there's a big movement right now with a lot of people trying to convince people that, like, if you do like OnlyFans and like this is what a strong independent woman is. What do you think of that example being used as the definition of like woman empowerment?
I think it depends on what kind of content you're putting out there. Like, let's say if she's putting out sexually explicit content, you're still playing into the stereotypical idea of what this is what a woman is. This is what a woman should do with her body or whatever. I'm not saying that you know, men don't do that, but it's just through we have to remember that a lot of this is seen through the male gaze, right? So, you know, yeah, you're a woman, you're doing X, Y, and Z, but you're still adhering to the male gaze, you know? And it's like, okay, some women see that as empowerment, like, this is my body and I'm gonna use it for this. And then some people, and that might be her mindset, but the viewer, it's like, who, you know, I would like to see the analytics behind it. Like, do we have more women subscribers or men subscribers, the age group, the income bracket within the age group? I like to see, like, the analytics behind stuff. I don't want to assume that, you know, they're doing it for this reason or that for that reason. I just think that it depends on what kind of content you're putting out there, because again, we're a visual society, but a lot of these structures are built upon not only white supremacy but the male gaze. So you're either going to be a chisel and chip away at that, or you're just going to further reinforce it. And I think that the reinforcing it is dangerous.
Which makes sense. Like, I understand what you're saying, it was just interesting. I just wanted to see your opinion because it's very, like,
Yeah,
one
because
side or
they
the
were
other.
they were trying to take it away. I think, right? They were trying to do something with OnlyFans, and then especially with these sexually explicit stuff. And then I forgot what happened because I wasn't really following it.
Yeah,
I just heard it trended on Twitter. That's why I knew about it.
Would you consider like OnlyFans like a real job?
I mean, you're self-employed, right?
Technically, yes.
Okay. So I would assume. I would assume so.
Sorry, that was off topic. Just
That's okay.
very curious.
Okay.
Right. But back to the symbolism.
Mm-hmm.
So I also read this somewhere. The Rothschilds.
Yes.
They had like these elite dinner parties called like surrealist balls. The surrealist ball. I think that was like the name of it. That's just what I've read somewhere.
Okay.
And the gold masks that were worn by the VIPs, like one that looked like a cat or like a tiger or something like that, stuff like that, it resembled a lot of the masks seen at these like secret dinner parties. A lot of the masks were like almost spot on to what was seen. And I feel like a lot of the stuff in Squid Game, it's like too much of a coincidence for there not to be a hidden like resemblance between them.
Especially the one with the owl.
Yes. Oh, the owl. That's what I had here. Because Illuminati, Freemasons, Bohemian Grove, all that stuff, they use an owl as symbolism. And did you hear about that thing with the Bohemian Grove, like that ritual where they burn that big owl?
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
And supposedly sacrifice a child.
Mm-hmm. I heard about that one, yes. And then on Epstein's Island, there was like a temple. I think it was on his island. I don't know if it was just one of his buildings, but there's a temple thing, and there's an owl statue right there. They're just right there, and so it's hidden in plain sight. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Netflix, a lot of just media in general, they'll give you your answers right there. They'll hint at stuff. They'll give you their symbols, but a lot of people just don't look into it. But it's like
that speaks to people if you're conscious or not. Like for instance, when like you were saying before because when you said this, I'm like, I have to go back and make sure this is correct. Mm-hmm. And they did. Once the people started dwindling down and they took the beds away, you did see all the games on the beds. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, it's right there. There's a lot of things in plain sight. Yeah, there's a lot of things in plain sight that people don't pay attention to.
And that could be the meeting right there. Like, it's like the director's like, let's just play on them some more, you know? It's right there. But then I also wonder if that plays a part into why it blew up so much. What if a lot of people who have ties with Netflix, whatever, they promote it more, they give it more views, they do whatever they need to do to put it all out there, just to tease, to see like how many people pick up on stuff, you know, stuff like that. I always feel like they have control over, for example, like the celebrities and stuff like that, who stays famous is like who's more intertwined with these little secret societies. That's what I always think. Like you sold your soul, you're gonna stay famous.
Even with that, like these verified blue checks when you get on these social media platforms, that all plays into whose opinion they value more than anybody else's. Everyone has an opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But they highlight people who have a certain amount of followers, a certain amount of quote unquote influence. Those are the ones they push towards the top because that's plays into their algorithm too. Whereas you and me, we don't have that many followers, but our opinion is just as valid. You know, it's like, well, I can't get verified, and if you try to get verified, you have to do all these steps just so, and then submit your request, and then they take it upon themselves, like, For instance, let's say someone only has like 30 followers compared to someone who has like 300,000 followers, right? But they both have opinions. They're both valuable opinions. That's the way I see it anyway. But according to them, the one that has 300,000 followers, they're going to push their message, and it could be a dangerous message too. For instance, former President Trump, he had an opinion. He had a following. I don't know how many millions he had, but a lot of his messaging was dangerous. Because you have followers who would read into that literally,
word for word,
and the next thing you know, January 6th happens. And so Twitter's like, oh, we may have to rein him in a bit. We may have to take away his account or suspend it. To me, the whole verification thing is just another game they play.
To give like a certain status or a certain, like you said, like someone with 30 followers, someone with 300,000, their opinions and stuff, it's still valid. And the person with 30 followers might make more sense than the person with 300,000, but it's just a symbol of like status, a symbol of like how known you are.
And then a person with 300,000 followers, for instance, they're tied to brands and stuff like that, right? But if they say the wrong thing, all of a sudden the brand's like, okay, we have to think about this. This is going to hurt our reputation. This is going to hurt our bottom line at the end of the day, right? Because everything's tied to money and profits. So that's why I'm like, this whole verification thing to me is BS, because as a casual person on media, you see that blue check, you're like, okay, this person must be important. No.
Yeah. Like you think of like only like celebrities have it, stuff like that. In a way, without even realizing, I feel like people without checks and stuff like that, when they see it, it's just like it makes someone more valid. Like, oh, they're verified. They're more valid or something like that. So I don't know.
Yeah, because the algorithm pushes them towards I forgot what it's called. For instance, with TikTok, when the Black people particularly went on strike, they had a lot to do with their content getting what they call shadow. What was it?
Shadow banned.
Shadow banned. Yeah, everything's political.
Yeah, without even realizing it.
Right.
Everything's like divisive. What's the word?
Divisive. They did it on purpose. Yeah. They did it on purpose, and that's what this movie's highlighting. They did it on purpose. Hey you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Do you have Spotify? If so, turn on the notification button. You can also find the Conversation Piece podcast on Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Pocket Cast, RadioPublic.com, Breaker.audio, and Anchor.fm/Akila Lynch, spelled AQUILA-LYNCH. Thank you for your support. Anything else you want to add?
I think we actually covered all of these notes I had here. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Can you believe that? Right on point.
Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me. This was fun.
I know. It is fun.
I like getting into the conspiracy theory rabbit hole.
I know you do.
Well, thank you.
All right. Talk to you later. Why are you waving? This is...
to give that ultimate feel.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's so cute. I started with a Carl Jung quote, and it seems fitting to end on a Carl Jung quote. It is not for nothing that our age cries out for the Redeemer personality, for the one who can emancipate himself from the grip of the collective psychosis and save at least his own soul, who lights a beacon of hope for others, proclaiming that here is at least one man who has succeeded in extricating himself from the fatal identity with the group psyche. Thank you again for tuning into another episode of the Conversation Piece podcast. I am your humble host, Akila, requesting that you join me again. So, until then, be safe. Love and value yourself so that you can love and value others. I bid you adieu with the greeting, Assalamu alaikum. Peace be with you.